So as Rishi Sunak loses control of the Conservative Party, as a group of significant MPs controlling various groups within the Conservative Party are due to meet on Monday, today in fact, in the Thatcher Room in Portcullis House. Gary Lineker is back in the news, having signed a letter together with Brian Cox and Lord Dannatt, former head of the British Army, condemning the Rwandan scheme. Of course, this meets with the disapproval immediately of Lee Anderson, who says what people want is to stop the boats and to tell overpaid crisp salesmen to put a sock in it. Of course, this stopping the boats is a misreading of what is the popular mood. The popular mood may have a concern about immigration in general. I have a concern about immigration, but it's not about illegal immigration. This is a very small group of people, and it doesn't have a particular impact except for the fact that the Home Office has not processed the applications, and people are now being put up in hotels at absurd expense and unable to work. We need to sort that out. It's not a difficult thing to sort out. It could be sorted out. And the gimmick of Rwanda, the gimmick of the barge, the gimmick of trying to use military camps, all of this is unnecessary. There are two things that need to be done. Number one, we need to ensure that illegal migration is defined. And to do that, we have to have an international conference, because we have to change the definition of a refugee, and we have to establish the difference between a legal and an illegal migrant. At the moment, that definition is something which is made after the application for refugee status has been accepted or rejected. And therefore, a legal migrant is either somebody with a valid visa or somebody who has received refugee status. An illegal migrant is simply somebody who doesn't have the paperwork to continue living in this country. But the 1951 Refugee Convention is quite clear that the route taken for somebody to get to this country is irrelevant to their status in front of the judging panels that consider their application for refugee status. And as for the idea that they must claim asylum in the first free country that they come to, this is quite true. It's there in the 1951 Refugee Convention, but it's been interpreted over 70 odd years, and it's been interpreted particularly by British judges who have established in law that a journey through a series of apparently safe countries is entirely legitimate, and that indeed a travel time of about 70 days is entirely legitimate. This is established in law. So people quoting the 1951 Refugee Convention really need to sit up and do some legal work and recognize that not only is the law about remembering the specific legislation, it's also about remembering the case history. And of course, the very specific interpretation of particular words which have a legal impact beyond their etymology and their general understanding. So, for example, the notwithstanding clauses. I disapprove of this aspect of law intensely, by the way. I think law should be straightforward, and a word should mean what it commonly is understood to mean. But it is important to establish, that people have a right to expect our country to behave in the spirit of the international agreements that it is still a signatory to. And that, I think, lies at the heart of the Rwanda debate. And I equally, I think that if you are working for a company, unless you are in the very, very limited sense where you are a newscaster, I don't think the BBC has any right to control what people say and do. And if it doesn't like it, well, maybe it just needs to sideline those people a little more. But frankly, I think Gary Lineker is entirely right to voice his opinion, and entirely at liberty to sign letters. And the only people who I think are not at liberty to do that would be senior members of the royal family, and possibly a handful of newscasters who have a reputation of speaking impartially. Everybody else is entitled to their opinion. And I think we're quite mature enough to recognize that there's a difference between what somebody says when they're reading an auto cue and what somebody believes.